Welcome back to Reality NSFW and our continuing coverage of Big Brother Canada Season 9. Now, normally Thursday nights, post-eviction, I'm joined by Peter Brown and we break down all the strategy, but Peter couldn't be here tonight. So we have a double dose of some awesome guests here. First up, the Veto King of BBCAN8. I think maybe the most styling house guest in Big Brother Canada history. And my winner pick last year, who I never got to see what happened. Hira, how are you doing, Hira?
Oh wow! Thank you for that introduction, and I appreciate the throwing me the style award there. So, thank you. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here, and very happy to be chatting BBCAN9. It's been a crazy week, so very excited to talk about all the tea that's happened, all the stuff and drama that's gone on this week.
Yeah, this is quite a week to get to talk BBCAN. I've been having a blast all week. And also joining us, get your finger guns ready. It's Carly Rae Jepsen's #1 fan, Joel from BBCAN4. Joel, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. Zach, I want to thank you for calling me and not saying maybe, but actually going all the way and calling me up for this particular podcast. It's been a while, but like Hira, I've enjoyed this week. Has been crazy. It's been, I think, unlike a lot of openings to any Big Brother US or Canada. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, the strategy this week, I feel like started off, we thought we had a nice divided house, which I was excited about. And now by the end, I feel like it's fractured into all these duos and a couple people floating around. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. But let's get your guys' first reactions to this season so far. Here, I'd like to start with you. Coming off of BBCAN8, I can't imagine what was going through your head coming into BBCAN9 about what the season was going to look like. I know fans were speculating Sheldon and Brooke are coming back. There's all kinds of crazy ideas. It's going to be 8 returning BBCAN8 players versus 8 new players. What are you thinking as this season is kicking off so far?
Oh yeah, like when this season, there was a lot of speculation, as you mentioned. Some people from BBCAN8, or maybe it's going to be people from previous seasons. I know people from our season were somewhat kind of like expecting someone from our season to be back. Mm-hmm. And especially when they released the house is pretty much the same with a little bit of greenery. So we were like, okay, this might be 3 or 4 of us back. I wasn't expecting much, but the moment I saw the house, and I honestly, it brought back like these feelings of like, oh man, I could get a chance again, maybe be back on there and get to finish what I started and like actually get to play out my dream. So it really triggered some of the memories and really got my hopes up a little bit. Even though my expectations, I didn't expect anyone to be back, but it got my hopes up. And when we didn't see anyone from the cast, it was a little tough. It was a little tough to get over. And I'm not gonna lie, even watching the first episode of them walking into the same house, same couches, everything the same, it just felt like I was there, because I spent 25 days there, and it was those 25 days feels like a year at least. So it was hard watching him walk in, but once a couple episodes got through, watched some live feed footage. I'm a huge fan of the season. I feel like this, before I thought I was a super fan, but now I'm a super fan. Like, I'm into it a lot this season, and I'm so excited for this cast. I'm so excited for the Big Brother franchise, that this cast is doing what it's doing so far. But yeah, I was a little triggered, to answer your question too. I wanted to get back in there so badly, but yeah, who knows? Maybe down the line. Who knows?
No, yeah, I can imagine. I hope it happens, but I went back and rewatched BBCAN8 because it was like a fever dream when that first aired. Like, there was so much going on in the world, and it was traumatic rewatching that. Like, I can't imagine having actually been there and kind of seeing this house and having all those emotions come back. That's a lot.
Yeah, no, the emotions were flowing. Like I can't even talk about it with my wife sometimes, because I can't. It's hard to talk about it. But the more I talk about it, it's kind of therapeutic. I get it out, get these feelings out. But yeah, no, our season is unfortunate, but like, I feel like our cast was really good too. Unfortunate with the way like some of the expulsions happened and all that. If COVID happened. If none of that happened, it would have been, I feel like, a really great season. There were some really entertaining characters on that season.
Yeah, and Joel, who's standing out to you from this cast? Who are some of your favorites early on? Who are you rooting for?
Well, I mean, I there's a lot of people to really enjoy because I mean, Arissa kind of said it near the end of the episode or near one of the commercial breaks before the eviction is that a lot of people are playing, a lot of people are like trying really hard to flip things around. And it's not just the people that are on the block that of course have to campaign and have to flip things, but there's a lot of people playing hard to try to get a leg up and get an advantage. In terms of my favorite, in terms of like entertainment value, I think we lost a really good one tonight in Latoya. I still think that was, if I'm in the house, I think that's the correct move. But from a fan standpoint, I am gonna miss seeing her in the house. Rohan, I think, is a fun character. I think Braden's playing extremely well right now. Kiefer's great. So I would say probably, yeah, those three, and even Austin as well. There's a lot of people to like.
Yeah, I can't remember ever seeing a Big Brother cast, US or Canada, where there are this many people actually playing this early on. It almost makes doing these recaps impossible and trying to keep up with the feeds because there's so many moving pieces. I'm used to just one or two people strategizing. But let's go ahead and get into tonight's eviction episode. So it kicks off. We had that strange cliffhanger last night. And as we all knew from the feeds, Jed is not going to use that POV. Were you guys shocked that Jed really was won over by Victoria here?
I wasn't shocked because of the fact that Vic pretty much threatened him, like, I'm going to put your number one guy up if you do it. So, but like Vic, to speak about favorites, Vic has become one of my favorites this season after this week. And I hate to see Latoya go, as Joel mentioned, but like that was the right move for Vic to get her out, because that's like from the Jed, Tashawn, and Latoya trio. Latoya is like the glue of that team. I feel like she was the brains behind it. She was like the head of the snake, as Vic mentioned. So it was the right move to get her out. And sorry, Blanche, what was your question? I just got back. I just got overtracked with Vic. What with Vic's the way she strategized this week was amazing. Like it just, I was in awe. And I'm not surprised that I'm not surprised Jed did not use the veto, because he's gonna have Tashawn up there otherwise. Like, why would you do that? You got to pick one of the two, right? And he's gonna pick his number one guy over Latoya, I guess, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I think I was a little bit surprised just because of kind of the stand that Jed and Tyshawn made in the HOH room for like the cliffhanger last night is the only thing. Like I thought, okay, when Victoria initially first had the talk with them and said Ty's going up, and then they went back, I thought he was just going to be like reserved and talk it over and just be like, look, Latoya, I'm not going to let it go. But when he went back in there and they kind of really held their ground, I was like, okay, now obviously he was just like testing the waters to see if there was only like maybe one last shot at it. But I think can only guess that the reason he didn't end up using the veto is that he saw the numbers weren't going his way, and that maybe not using it can help him integrate long term with some of the other players in the house, because he's seeing that, you know, the Sunsetters aren't necessarily running things like they were a couple of weeks back. So that's my guess as to why they didn't use the veto. So like Hira said, his hands were kind of tied, and I think maybe Jed was thinking more long term, like, okay, right now maybe this can generate me some favors with Victoria and some other people who I'm not close with right now.
Yeah, some of the strategy we're seeing between Jed and Ty and their relationship with Ro and Kyle, and then their relationship with Victoria, I feel like they're doing a whole lot of, I don't know, I think of like Breaking Bad, like half measures, where they're almost kind of like, I'll put 1 foot in and 1 foot out, where I think they're going to need to make some decisive moves one way or the other on who they're really with. Because I think that they're getting a lot of people not fully with them right now. But the house is so shaken up. They somehow got lucky with this HOH crapshoot at the end that we'll get to. But I think they're in a good spot going forward now again.
I also think,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I also think like Victoria did a really good job of lying and convincing them that Kiefer is the target. Like they really, I think up until today, they really thought Kiefer was going home, which is surprising to me. I didn't campaign. They really believed Kiefer was going home, so that's why that made it easier for them to not use the veto, because Victoria did a great job of keeping the oddballs in on the loop and convincing the two boys that Kiefer is the target, which was impressive.
Yeah, I think she did a really good job with that. And like on the feeds, that she was lying for hours and hours and keeping this up. It was very impressive. The part that really like I was so impressed with her, and then I'm ready to pull my hair out when she goes up to Jed after the veto ceremony and says, "Oh, I was never putting time up." What is that?
Yeah, that's. I was actually just gonna point that out. Is like, why would she? After that whole confrontation and after she threatened him, it's like, you know, she already boxed herself in by saying that one thing. So you can't just all of a sudden backpedal and say I was never. And it was just kind of unnecessary to say it at that point. She just, you know, all she had to do was say like, hey, thank you for doing that. I've got you. I'm not going to forget this. Right. She didn't have to say I wasn't going to do that. Like that just makes her look a little bit sketchier. There was just really unnecessary.
That was just rubbing salt on the wound there. I feel like, yeah. I wouldn't feel good if I was Jed and I heard that, you know.
No,
I think Victoria so badly wants to be in with them, and that was almost like her subconsciously being like, let's just wipe the slate clean. Let's forget all that messiness, all of our being against each other. We're good now, right? But then, yeah, like either A, he takes that as disingenuous and is like, why is she lying to me now? Or B, yeah, she's rubbing salt in the wounds of lying to him. That's not good either way.
Yeah, they're having a hard time, I think, reading her, because there was this one conversation on the live feeds where they're like, is she just a really good liar, or like we're just not playing the game or something? They had this conversation, and it's true. Like it was impressive to see how they're seeing this, because she really has them fooled right now. Like they can't read her.
Yeah, she clearly does, because there were 3 votes that went for Kiefer who were like 100% like Kiefer is going home. So yeah.
Which is amazing. The handling of Kiefer this week has, I think, been the most underreported story for how bad some of these people are doing. I couldn't get over last night's episode where you've got Jed and Ty and Latoya celebrating with Kiefer in the room that they're going to save Latoya, meaning that's Kiefer's death sentence, who's supposed to be their ally, and they're jumping around the room celebrating with him sitting right there. And if he is pushed to this pre-90s alliance that we see him pushed to, I think they have a lot of blame for their behavior this week.
Yeah, even in today's episode, when during the veto ceremony, Jed said, "Oh, hopefully hopefully everyone respects Vic's wishes of getting Kiefer out." Pretty much, like I'm like, that's if I was Kiefer and I'm hearing that would make me feel pretty shitty. So and Kiefer, exactly, this whole week, that's so impressive too. That even Kiefer has played it off so well, like he's a dead man walking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I actually think that sets up Kiefer's week started off really badly with him trying to flip and then trying to save face with Rohan and so on. But I actually think just through I don't know necessarily that he's made a game move. I actually legitimately believe that he feels bad for how he handled the attempted flip last time around. I actually think that sets up Kiefer pretty nicely, because people see him now as like somebody who's been really humbled, who like screwed up. And I feel like people can feel like they can probably trust him moving forward. I don't know how long he's going to keep that up, but I think just through his own, like, I want to do this for my family and everything like that, which I think is legit, he's actually like could curry himself a lot of favor moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. I'm interested to see what this week looks like. We've sort of had Groundhog Day with Kiefer so far, where he does something really stupid at the beginning of the week and then somehow saves himself by the end of the week and is in a good spot. Where the first time he's actively cheering against Austin, who wins HOH, finds himself on the block, and then has a pretty decent week not going home. This week, of course, same deal. He is apologizing for all these stories he was telling behind people's backs and ends up on the block, but somehow comes out looking peachy at the end. So it'll be cool with him in power to see what that looks like, because we haven't seen that dynamic yet. So it'll be pretty interesting, especially with him sort of playing the middle now. Another thing we're seeing is a really tense house. And I have, I was like getting so irate with Twitter at how triggered everyone is with each other and calling each other bullies and all this nonsense. But I have to say the living room or the dining room into the kitchen conversation was like peak television of Ty talking shit to try to feel better about Victoria, and then Victoria walking in and overhearing them. How often does that kind of stuff happen in the BBCAN house? Like, how often do you really overhear people talking about you like that?
It's surprising. Like, it happens. It's like with the way the house is designed, sometimes people just blend into the furniture or the walls and you don't know they're sitting there. So you got to be very careful. And I can see that mistake happening very easily every season. So I'm not surprised, but like, especially when you're sitting in that spot, you're in the dining room, you're such an open area, your voice travels. You got to be careful. And I feel like Tishan and those guys slipped up there. But that shouldn't happen there. It can happen in other rooms. It shouldn't happen there, I feel like.
Yeah, not like in the open like that. But I can understand people like, if you're deep into a conversation, you can lose sight of like, okay, maybe someone in the pantry is like listening at the door. If you've been having like a 10-15 minute conversation, you're not going to stop. You're not going to be so paranoid that you're going to stop every 2 seconds to open the door and make sure nobody is like spying. You might do that initially to check it out. But yeah, it's inexcusable in a wide open space like that, where people are walking back and forth readily to that, to like, it's just such an easy, predictable way to get caught. It's like, it's like robbing a bank or something without a mask or anything, like it's just in broad daylight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I like it.
a boneheaded move.
Yeah, because I feel like Vic was sitting all the way near the diary room area.
Yeah.
And the fact that she heard you guys from the table, you must have been talking way too loud where even the kitchen guys can hear you. Like, it's just, it's inexcusable. You can't be doing that.
Yeah, that's not good. And I think it speaks to something which Ty and Jed have been talking about on the feeds, which is they're not really that big of fans of Big Brother Canada, and they feel a little outclassed with what's going on around them. That's a classic newbie mistake, I think.
Yeah, but surprisingly, considering they say they're not fans, I've been impressed with some of their game talks. Like when they went in, they had the conversation this week when the two of them went in and talked to Victoria. Jed kept having a lot of good rebuttals of like, hey, why can't I use the veto? Like that whole conversation, it was pretty impressive. I was pretty impressed with Jed on that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I would agree. I thought they held their own with Victoria pretty well. It just felt like the truth was like right there in front of them, and they just quite couldn't grasp it. But
they weren't giving up. I got to give it up to them. They didn't give up. Like I watched that on the live feeds. I was impressed because I know, like, I now that I watch the feeds, I get it. But I know last year I wasn't like that. If ever that opportunity comes, I've learned from these games for sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Next up on the show, we get to see a little bit of contrast in how these two players on the block, Kiefer and LT, are pitching themselves, and they're really different. So we see Austin sitting in the, what's that room called? I don't know. One of those
media room.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And she's sitting back there, and Latoya comes in, and she makes her pitch, and it's almost entirely game, and it's not personal, and she just outlines like a few quick reasons to keep her. And Austin's response is, I respect your little things so much. And then literally laughs. Why is Latoya not connecting with people? How could she do this pitch better?
Go ahead, Joel. I'll let you go first with this one.
Well, I mean, that's hard because I feel like, as opposed to Kiefer, Latoya never really apologized or like said I was wrong for trying to do this flip or I was wrong for trying to do this. She kind of like owned it the entire time. I think her best, first off, I think both pitches were kind of like really just a normal, just general stuff without any sort of substance or context. I feel like that's the kind of thing that somebody who is not that big of a fan will pitch without like having too much knowledge of the game, but maybe understanding a few little tidbits here and there. I think Latoya's a good pitch for Latoya is like she got caught red-handed with this whole thing, and like that's an easy kind of like similar to Josh the previous week. He is when you get caught like that, that's an easy person to put up week after week after week. So that's like one less person to be nominated. That's sort of off the top of my head, that's not a bad pitch, I think, for Latoya.
Yeah, I think Josh had the best pitch I've ever heard from someone who was about to go home in Big Brother Canada, and it didn't work, but I think it was about exactly all he could say last week.
Yeah, Josh's pitch was really good, and that's why I'm so surprised. Latoya, like, she worked so hard the last 2 weeks to make these flips happen. So she's a good talker.
Yeah,
but this week I'm just surprised. That's why I'm like, wow, they really had him fooled, that they really believe Kiefer is a dead man walking. So they're not even campaigning. Like, that pitch from Latoya to Austin was so generic. It was just like, I'm not coming after you, blah blah blah. Like, if I'm in that situation with Austin, it's like, you're not really pitching to me. You're just saying,
yeah,
okay, you're not coming after me. It's so generic. You got to give me something, maybe like give me a deal or some sort of thing. It's not even like, even if it's a fake deal, it's like out of kind of like you're kind of getting too cocky that you're staying in a way. You're getting too comfortable. Like, and the thing with Latoya, I feel like, is she's a cop. She's very composed, and she's very stone cold, like, with her emotions. So it's been hard, I feel like, for her to connect with some of the other people outside of her alliance.
Mm-hmm.
So she does not want to be fake with them. She's said it many times. So that's why she's had a very hard time campaigning. Even if she tried, I think, like, she can't connect with the rest of the house.
Yeah, no, I love Latoya. I've never seen anyone like her on Big Brother before. She's a really fascinating player, and there is a warmth to her. There's a lot of fun to her, and we saw it with her close allies. She just didn't show that personality to the rest of the house, and I think if she was ever going to return, that's what she's going to need to work on. But I was just flabbergasted that she leaves that conversation with Austin and is saying, like, thinking she's staying, as Austin's laughing in her face, like, man, if I ever get pulled over by a cop and have weed in the car, I hope that whatever mood she was in, that's the mood the cop is in. You buy that? That was terrible.
Yeah, she's a good old Pickering cop out here in the GTA.
So then we cut and see a little bit of Austin and Brayden, and they're talking about how everyone thinks they're clueless. I think they're playing the middle pretty well here. I think Brayden could maybe do a little bit more, particularly for the TV show. But what do you guys think? I feel like both of you played the middle pretty effectively in your seasons. What do you think Austin and Brayden are doing well, and how do you see the game going for them?
I think they're doing really well, like, in the situation where, like, Austin's won power. I wish the only thing in her HOH week, I wish she was able to solidify an alliance, but she's been able to do it this week with Vic's HOH. But yeah, like, the middle is not a bad place to be. They're gonna go far. Like, they're both well liked. The only thing I wish for them, they're always together. I hope they can see that they need to kind of branch out a little bit and not be always seen together. I think they've just accepted that they're a duo, which is fine. But, like, they still need to kind of build some relationships with other people individually so they can be much stronger down the line.
Yeah, I think Austin has done a really good job of getting some of the spotlight and attention off of her from that house meeting that Josh called. There was a point where, she held her ground and fought back there. And then there was a point in that house meeting when Josh went home last week where I was like, okay, maybe now she wasn't on anybody's radar. And then she kind of was there when Josh put her on blast. But I never heard pretty much anything from Austin all week, other than her competing for that veto and being good at crosswords, which is like a good thing for her. After an HOH, if you can kind of like disappear out of the spotlight and other people are on your radar, that's a good thing to do, especially in such like after such a quick time, because after you're the HOH, it's very often where you're the person on that person's radar because you just nominated people from a certain side of the house, or you just nominated somebody who got HOH or whatever. It's very common in Big Brother history that an HOH will go up the following week. So she's done a really good job to dissolve out of that spotlight because, you know, she got blood on her hands, whether she likes it or not, by being the HOH. And Brayden, yeah, I agree with you, Zach. He's not really doing too much for the TV audience, but you know, he doesn't really have to right now. I think Brayden socially, more than anything else, I'm noticing him being exceptionally well. And I don't hear anybody like even talking bad about him about like, oh, he's annoying or I can't stand him or anything like that, which is like, it's fine at this stage of the game. If you're doing too good of a job of that in like a few weeks down the road, then you have to be careful. But for right now, they're both pretty nicely positioned.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the HOH. I like almost forgot myself that Austin was HOH and is
right?
a really big competition threat so far, as we saw again in the HOH comp tonight. I mean, she was the first HOH of the season and no one's really talking about her. That's a really good spot to be in.
Yeah, her HOH week was very quiet. Like extreme.
Yeah.
I didn't even I during the week I was like, who's HOH? She was just chilling. Like they were her and Brayden were just like doing their nails or something, and they were just hanging out in the HOH room chilling the whole time.
Yeah, I was really critical of her for not trying to build a coalition, which is sort of what modern Big Brother is all about, is get that first HOH, get in a big majority alliance and just roll. I'm super glad she didn't, because it makes a way better television show and way better feeds. But yeah, I guess if you're not going to build a coalition, playing it really low is the way to go. Yeah. Joel, you made it really deep. Would you say that's fair that you were a middle player going through the game?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is the trick to go from playing the middle to getting respect and winning in the end? Because this is something that I was thinking about a lot with Tina, where I think Tina is also playing the middle really well, but I think that she's playing the middle in a way that people are not going to respect.
Interesting. I don't know. I feel, I mean, it's only 3 weeks in, so it's really hard to tell. You know, you can't tell right now if final two were to happen right now, would Beth potentially get votes? I don't know. But basically, Hira kind of touched on it before. You can't have, when you're in the middle, you can't have too long of conversations with one group or another. But another thing that I liked to do when I was in the middle was not only like spread out my relationships or anything like that, but I never tried especially hard to like manipulate a vote one way or another. I would put input one way or the other with a thing or two. And the other thing that I would do is a lot of times I would like just be silent when other people would be in my ear about like some alliance members. There was lots of times where Dallas would come up to me wanting Cass out, or like Maddie and Ramsey wanted Levita out and so on. And I would just like, I wasn't going to go back at them because I knew they were talking to everybody else about that same stuff. So if you're silent about it sometimes and it's not your name, it's kind of the, not to switch gears to the Survivor, but the Sandra, as long as it ain't me kind of thing, strategy, that can also be an effective thing in Big Brother. And also, if you have a good read on people and you know that you're not on their radar, sometimes it's just kind of like Paris did on season 6. Sometimes you can push a little bit to keep some of your allies in there, but sometimes if you know that you're still in a good spot, if that person is out, sometimes you just need to like cut your losses. Sometimes you just need to like accept that, okay, this person is going, the more harder I push for this, the more it's going to potentially like hurt me, the more I'm going to be on somebody else's radar. So I would do that a lot of times, and not just from a game standpoint, but from a social standpoint as well. I would sometimes just like, if we were having just a general argument, I would let somebody else have it just because there's no point. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you should have talked to Latoya before she went and played Big Brother. A lot of that would have been really helpful advice.
Do you guys think though Tina has kind of burnt her bridge with the Sunsetters now? So but like just because Tina being Tina, like they don't really see her as a threat, she just automatically then falls back in the middle. But if she was a bit more of a physical threat or like a competition threat, she's definitely picked a side, and she's not on the Sunsetters anymore.
Yeah, I think she was way too visible with how she made that cut. Like, I guess she could have started like subtly working towards the middle there, but she just pretty much cut them off as soon as they were up on the block and as soon as she started feeling towards the bottom with them. So, yeah, I think that's probably a good takeaway from Tina and that relationship is don't burn that bridge until you have to, because there's a pretty good chance this could have been an endurance comp, a physical comp, and Jet and Ty are still always going to be the favorites to win those for a while.
Yep.
But we'll interrupt the strategy chat for a bingo competition for some reason on the eviction night. I would have loved this on the Monday episode, but we got it tonight on a really busy eviction night.
That was fun.
Yeah. What were you guys' favorite dares?
I guess some of them were smashing eggs on their head. That was funny. The one rolling, ice cream one looked funny. The potato on the floor was a little funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what else they did like that they didn't show us. So that looked really fun. I would have loved to have done that last year. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the bummer with this being packed into tonight. We didn't get more of it because it would have been a lot funnier. Or put this on the feeds. I would have loved to watch this on the feeds. This would have been great content there. My favorite was definitely the reenactment of the Roe LT fight. The fact that had.
I'm glad they made a joke out of it because that was a very intense conversation when that happened, and Roe took a lot of heat for that. So
yeah, no, I'm definitely glad they're laughing about that. I also think this is probably our best smoking gun to the fact that the team's twist was not meant to end after 2 weeks. This sure looked like it was meant to be divided into two sides of the house with maybe Destiny versus Defenders here. And I think production probably smartly killed that team's twist early. And I think this is our best piece of evidence to point to that so far. Yeah. So Brayden gets the bingo ball costume.
Another random question: are they not sleeping in the have-not room, the ball pit?
So I hear that the ball pit is not the have-not room. Actually, it's just a ball pit.
Oh man, these guys have it good. The have-nots are sleeping in bed. That's awesome. They have it good.
Yeah, and one of them's getting skip the dishes every week. It's not too bad.
Are people always, if it's just a ball pit, are there people, because I haven't really been watching live feeds too much, are there people like jumping in the pit trying to like find hidden clues to vetoes or anything like that?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, there's a clip going around. A lot of people thought that the feed's cut because Latoya found a power or something. There was a screenshot of her holding a purple ball that was the only purple ball in the whole ball pit, and people were making a lot of that. I don't know. Yeah. I am of the opinion they'll eventually do something with the ball pit with some sort of twist, but I don't think it's live yet. If the item they need is in there, the twist is not live yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, I'm guessing it's gonna be like week 6 or 7 where that comes into play for sure.
Yeah,
there's definitely something. There's definitely gonna be a competition related to like how many balls are in that ball pit or how many colors are of a certain ball are in there. Yeah. And then also with the arrows pointing down, there's definitely gonna be a power in there.
Yeah. And we had that Adam Pike line on the TikTok of, look all around the house. There's always something hiding. That's in the show for a reason. That's foregrounding for the audience what's about to happen.
Yeah.
These guys, the timeline needs to make sense with the days. Without them bringing 2 extra people in, the timeline doesn't make any sense for the show. So something's going to happen to change the game up at some point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think there might be a battle back or something like that. When it gets to jury.
Yeah, I think a jury battle back probably makes the most sense because I know all the people who are out now are already on social media and whatnot. So we'll see.
Honestly, I don't know if it's too early to talk about like GOAT, an easy person to take to the end. But if there's one person that comes to mind as like an easy beat right now. I know you were talking about you don't know necessarily if people are going to respect Tina's game, but I would be flabbergasted if anybody in the house right now would be impressed by Beth's strategic game, physical game, social game, or anything like that. We even saw, like, Hira was talking about how well Jedson held his ground in the HOH room and really like had a snappy and fire back thing. I think the telltale sign of the fact that maybe Beth is a little bit out of her element, or maybe just can't handle that kind of a stressful situation, is when that whole intensity was going on, there was a point where I believe Victoria mentioned, well, what if I did Beth, right? And then Beth was sitting right there, right? And then there was not a single peep. Beth didn't speak up and say like, Beth didn't speak up and say like, no, thank you. I don't want to go up or anything like that. You would think at least, no matter what kind of, how good of a mastermind or strategist you are, you would at least like speak up in that moment and be like, no, thank you. Don't put me up on the block. Like, I want to stay here. But she didn't say a single word. So, I mean, that to me is somebody who I don't think is going to be targeted for a really long time. If she does leave the house in the next few weeks, it's at the expense of somebody just wanting an easy out for an HOH week. But other than that, if people are playing the like get the threats out and so on, she's got to be right at the bottom in terms of threat level.
Yeah, I feel like that HOH conversation, there had to be a light bulb go off in all of Jed, Ty, and Latoya's heads of, why did we bring Beth in here? Because then they would have said, yeah, just put Beth up. Sure, that sounds great. We don't care at all. That was such an awkward moment in the HOH room because you can sort of see what was on all their minds.
Yeah, I'm sure if Beth wasn't there, they would have been like, yeah, what about Beth? But then again, Victoria would never have suggested Beth unless Beth was in that room, you know.
Exactly.
Victoria's very smart.
True.
Victoria's as I was saying, she's a badass for doing that. Like that was cruel and an awesome game move.
No, that was an awesome game move. I've been really impressed with Victoria, especially like, I talked about Kiefer setting low expectations. She set completely low expectations coming in at the move-in. I was like, what world is she in? She's not playing Big Brother. And now here she is, like the godfather running things from the HOH room. So that's been awesome to see. So I guess the next thing we get to see is sort of how some of these duos are shaking down in the house. What are your thoughts on the alliance structures? Do you see the oddballs holding? We've already seen the Sunsetters fracture pretty significantly.
Yeah, I think the oddballs will hold strong until either one of Jed or Ty are gone.
Okay.
And then they will think about turning on each other, like maybe turn on Kyle and Rohan or something, if they aren't out by then. But yeah, I think they're pretty all on the same page in terms of getting Jed and Ty out. I feel like, and then they've also been rubbed the wrong way by Beth, especially Victoria and Austin.
Oh yeah, they don't like her.
And even Kyle. Like Kyle talks about her on the live. He's like, he doesn't like her at all either. So I think they're united with their hate towards that side. Not hate, like their dislike towards getting them out the other side. So I think they're united until like either one of Jed or Ty go, and then they'll turn on each other.
That sounds fair. Yeah, the way I'm envisioning the house is you've got like Kyle and Ro on one side, you've got Jed and Ty on the other, and everyone else is just sort of seeing where they fit better. But I think the Jed and Ty together is such a bigger threat than any other pairing we've got that, yeah, that makes sense to me that until they get one of those guys out, there's not much to be done other than continue to target them. It'll be really interesting to see what Kiefer does this week. I guess let's fast forward a little bit before we get to the eviction vote. What do you envision Kiefer's plan is going to be going forward here? I mean, he said he was going to be targeting Austin and Victoria. They've both put him up. There's a lot of chat going on there. And now he's, of course, aligning with the middle. We see him in the episode here coming in with Tina and Tara quite a bit. What do you think Kiefer's move is going to be going forward in this current structure we're seeing?
I think there are 4 people from the oddballs that are potentially like up there. I think Austin could potentially be high up there. I know there was Kiefer had a huge confrontation with Rohan and Kyle in the right after he was trying to save face after the last eviction. So I think perhaps like the Jeds and ties and stuff, I think might try to push Kiefer to go that particular route and say to break up Rohan and Kyle, because they're the clear duo on the oddball side of the house, whereas Jed and Ty are the clear like dynamic duo on the opposite side that is like common knowledge to everybody else. Victoria is an easy one. It's just a question of like how he wants to do it. Does he want to like regain trust and like does he want to like prove to people that he's a straight up honest guy and play for his family like he kind of did with his whole apology thing? If he's gonna go that route, then the easiest thing to do is probably, I think, to go after Kyle and Rohan, because they're a common like dynamic duo. And then he says like, you know what, I'm giving you guys a chance to fight. I'm not going to do anything shady and underhanded and try to backdoor you. He either goes with that duo on his initial nomination or Austin and Victoria. But I think Rohan and Kyle makes the most sense. If he's going to do like the sneakier underhanded thing, then he's probably going to try and backdoor Rohan, would be my guess.
Yeah, I feel like initially I was interested to see how, like, does he hold any ill feelings towards Jed and Ty for pretty much writing him off the whole week. They were riding with Latoya for sure. They pretty much were like, Kiefer, man, it's okay. You played a good game. You played an honest game. You were loyal. They pretty much were like, okay, you're going home. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if he's gonna. I'm still wondering if he's gonna hold that kind of take that personal and hold that against them. But the way when he won the HOH right now, and the way he hugged them, it seems like he's gonna stay loyal to those guys. So I think, based on the fight that he had with Kyle and Rohan, I feel like he's going to go towards in that direction of nominating them. And then as a backdoor option is Victoria. So just because she was a mastermind in getting out their mastermind, really.
Yeah. Kiefer's in an interesting spot because he has been done dirty by Rohan and Kyle and by Jed and Ty. But yeah, I still see him as thinking he's more in with the Sunsetters than he is with the Cairo deal. Ro's blow up is going to have a lot of repercussions, I think, for his game. That was so talked about between all the house guests, and we had that clip on the show of Kiefer telling them like, "No, I'm done with you. Talk to the wall. Like, I will not work with you." And yeah, Joel, as soon as you were saying it, and now I'm hearing her agree. I don't want that to be how this week goes down, but that seems like such a Kiefer move to be like, yeah, Rowan and Kyle, take a seat. Like, I'm doing the honorable thing. We've been going against each other. Yeah, that's what Kiefer's
he's really after Rohan. I think this, like, from that fight, like, he took it personal from Rohan more so than Kyle, which I don't know. Maybe it was just the body language of Rohan when he was pacing in the pantry when they were talking, and it was like intimidating to Kiefer. So I didn't like that conversation when Rohan came to apologize to Kiefer, and then Kiefer was just like, "No, I'm done with you, man. I'm done with this conversation." So you got to give everyone a chance to apologize. I feel like even if you don't want to do it for the game side, like don't write the guy off. It's very disrespectful. So to Rohan at least, but Rohan took the heat out of that conversation. I think he's the main target from that duo.
Yeah, I think I was saying last night, apologies are like alliances. If someone comes to you with one, just say yes. Like, no matter what.
Yeah. Like, why would you say no? Like, come on, you don't want to make someone think, okay, this guy is written off in my game books,
Yeah. Well, back to the eviction vote. Latoya claims this is not a blindside. The interwebs, I think, disagree. Everyone who was watching the feeds and all of Twitter, are we in agreement this was definitely a blindside?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think personally, I think Victoria only, not Victoria, Latoya only said that whole stuff to Arissa. In my personal opinion, it seemed like, okay, she didn't want to look dumb on national television by saying that she got like just totally bamboozled by these other people. So I think that she said that because that's what you say in that moment. It's like when you leave the game, more often than not, people will say, I have no regrets. I would do everything the same way and so on. And it's like, okay, well, you're just like following the typical script that we're expected of you to say. And I felt like she was just trying to save her dignity or save face.
I like. I was so excited for the blind. As much as I hate to see Latoya go, I was so excited for a true blindside where like she literally, I think, had no clue. But it was very anticlimactic at the end there. She just, I guess that's just her demeanor, her personality, being a cop. She's so cool and composed.
Yeah.
If it was anybody else, there would have been like a blow up, a lot of F-bombs going off, and this and that. And
Sure, yeah.
the only thing she did was she skipped on hugging Victoria, throwing shade
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
And then she didn't hug Austin, Rohan, and Kyle. So
right.
that's as much fireworks as we got. But I was hoping for so much more.
Yeah, when she gave her speech, I'm like, it's a blindside. She thinks she's staying. She's still talking about honoring the HOH's wishes. This is crazy. And I thought we were going to see her break character, but no, stone face to the end, which more respect to her. I could not stay that composed, I think, if I was having my game ripped away unexpectedly.
Yeah, I was, man, I was like giddy on the couch watching him, like, oh my God, we're going to finally see some emotion from Latoya, maybe. But, Latoya is Latoya. That's just how she is. But yeah. I hate to see her go, but she true blindside.
Yeah, she was iconic. What is the retrospective on her game? So she goes out, week 3 here. She was a huge player. She's kind of like a Devin character, I feel like, in Big Brother US, of just like came in full force, guns blazing, making flips happen, really trying to build this alliance, and goes out early. What was her big mistake? What are we going to look back and say that's what Latoya needed to do better?
I think just a little too aggressive from the very beginning, especially like from the very first week when there were conversations going on to her and she was just kind of like, you know what, I forget who it was. I think it was somebody in the very first week there was conversations, I believe, with her and Julie. So just her kind of going back and confronting people when she was in a decent position and didn't really need to. So just sometimes playing a little aggressive when she didn't really necessarily needed to be that way. Being a little over aggressive is the word that comes to mind when I think of Latoya's game. Too early to be that aggressive and just not reading into how everyone else is playing.
Yeah, I agree. Like as Joel said, she was too aggressive when she didn't need to be, but it worked out for her for those 2 weeks. She got what she wanted. Well, for the 1 week, she got what she wanted. But then she tried again the next week, and it didn't happen. So that really threw her off her game. And then when she needed to be aggressive this week to campaign, it's like the fire was gone. She just got too comfortable, and I didn't expect that from her. Even though like we saw there was on the live feed, she was like one day she was just searching the house like mad, like looking for a secret power or something. And so that like she had that fire in her, but like she should have been campaigning more. And then the only downfall in her game was like she couldn't be fake to the people that she didn't really vibe with, and she needed to be fake and like throw out. She was too loyal. She couldn't lie to some of these people. To build some sort of a fake alliance to at least try to save her. So I think she was just too loyal and didn't lie and when she needed to. But yeah, she did a great job in flipping the house the 1 week. But
yeah, I think there's got to be a balance when you come into the house. Like, if you've got like 100% to give, how much of it are you giving to strategy versus how much are you giving to building relationships? And I think that where we're saying her game was so aggressive, like she was talking game to everyone. She was flipping votes. She was that's what she came in to do. We saw that even in her pitch tonight to Austin. She wasn't connecting on a personal level. This wasn't a conversation. She wasn't sitting down and talking. She walked in the room, said what she had to say. It was all game related, and then walked out. And that's, I think there is a time for that in the game later on, or when your back's really against a wall, but not early on when people are still feeling the game out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's about like getting to know people. And if like the way you're describing is kind of was Levita's downfall on my season, was that she was like a super strategist, was always talking strategy with people and everything like that. But, the stuff that's not going to make the show is those dinner conversations where you're like, how are you? What do you do? Where do you come from? What's your religion? What's your background? Do you have a wife, kids, and so on and so forth? That's not interesting for the general Big Brother fan to watch that stuff, but that stuff can take a lot of weight in like staying in the house, especially early on, because people think like, okay, this is not somebody who is just super schemy and plotty the whole time. This is actually like a human being who I want to like keep around.
Yeah, it makes it harder for someone to like put you up. Like it makes it harder for it gives them, if you don't have that personal connection, it makes it easier for someone to be like, I don't really care for this person's feelings. I'm gonna put him or her up. So and also if you're going to game talk with somebody and you don't have that personal connection, it doesn't feel as genuine. So it's like, is there any like backing to your offer here, like similar to what Austin conversation? So
Yeah, well, I wonder how much this is Josh's fault, because I think Latoya did start off building those connections. We had that really great moment where she came out as being bisexual on the show. And I thought she was building those relationships, but then I think that her boys, Jed and Ty, had their back against the wall really early on with this Pretty Boys 2.0 being called out. So then she went on the attack, and I think she didn't come off the attack once she started with really being guns blazing the strategy. So Josh, you ruined something else, buddy. You were my favorite this season, and gone too early.
Yeah, Josh was he was rooting for Latoya once he got out the house. I had a couple words with him. He's a good dude. I wish he was in there longer, but I also want to see Rohan in there longer too.
Yeah, okay. No, they're good. So we get to the HOH comp, and we get a crapshoot HOH, as a lot of people were predicting. It's some seniors discount or something. Sure, they're playing shuffleboard on the table. I really like the costumes this season. They feel like actual clothes, which they don't normally.
I know this season so far they've had it really well. They haven't had to wear these crazy costumes, these hard, elaborate like knee pads or anything. Like the one competition from my season with the first veto where we're pulling sleds, our knees were scraped off. Like
I bet.
Like skin was peeled off. Like these guys are wearing like dress shirts and dress pants to like going to the office right now. So they're living it up right now. I'm so jealous. I hate watching it.
Yeah, they didn't have to do a lot of the embarrassing Big Brother Canada stuff so far. They didn't have the like really overproduced B-roll footage at the beginning of them talking about how great they are coming in. They just got to like set up an iPhone at their house. So they're getting off easy. So Kiefer and Austin go down to the end. They both score perfect 10s, and Kiefer ends up pulling it out with a 9. So as we said, there was a lot of chat going on between Austin and Kiefer while they were on that podium. Do you think they made a deal, or you think they're protecting each other here?
I mean, I understand why they would in that moment. That's only like natural every time when it comes down to two people. I think that's what always pretty much happens season after season. We've seen that already in the first couple of comps. I think Victoria and Kiefer were saying to each other like, I got you, and so on. And then Victoria, lo and behold, like put him up. But like you said, that's what you kind of have to say in that moment. So I don't, I'm sure they were doing that. I think Kiefer might be more likely to, just because he was kind of humbled with with his failed flip. Kiefer might be more likely to follow through with a chatter if there was, in fact, a promise made, as opposed to Austin, I think. So maybe that can help Austin in this situation, because I don't think Austin would have held true to any sort of talk. Well, I'm sure we'll see next episode what exactly was talked about between them there. But I think, Kiefer's more likely to. Don't know if he will or not.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, they'll show it next episode, but like, it's either, it seems like it's a trend this season where there's two people up there and they're just guaranteeing each other's safety, whoever wins. So more likely, I think it was that conversation. But I'm also curious if it was Austin saying potential. I can't see her doing this, but her potentially saying, "Hey, do you want me to throw this to you?" I wonder if that was it.
Because her throw was really bad on the second one.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I wonder, but I'm doubtful for that. But I wonder. We'll see next episode. But that could be the case because Austin and Brayden, they feel pretty comfortable, and that's who she's only protecting is Brayden. So she might be okay with getting some goodwill with Kiefer and their side and throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like everyone is watching that podium. I wonder if Austin actually did that. It was interesting to see.
It will be. I mean, that's a great way to not only protect yourself, but to protect Brayden. And big up to Austin if she pulled that off and was able to protect two people, because she also has to know Kiefer up there. That dude's not going to say you're safe and then put you on the block. He might be the one person in the house who won't do that. So I would take his word to the bank.
If she's making a deal though, to like, if anybody is up there making a deal for themselves and somebody else, then maybe this is just me, but I have instant red flags, and I'm like, okay, so like you're kind of forcing my hand to put you guys up because you're clearly like showing how tight you are with that particular thing. Like I would totally, if somebody was just saying keep me safe to that other person, I would hold more weight to that than if they're trying to like make deals with like save this. Because I remember, I think it was the year that Vanessa was on US, she somebody made a deal with James to like, hey, don't put Shelly on the block or Clay or Johnny Mac or Vanessa and like 4 people. And I'm like, okay, well, just make a deal for yourself that people won't think twice about that. But when you start throwing other people's names out there, that's when I start to get suspicious. I don't know about Kiefer.
But don't you think like everyone in that house and their grandma knows that those two are a duo, right? Like, like Austin and Brayden are attached at the hip from the looks of it. So, but I don't think that was the conversation that she did have. It was probably just like, hey, you're safe if I win.
We're just speculating.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of chat on the live feeds, though, of unfortunately bringing over some discourse from Big Brother All Stars 2 down here in the U.S. about like who are your untouchables, of course, when asked, I guess Jed and Ty immediately said, our untouchables are Latoya, and like gave all this information. And what about you, Ro and Kyle? Who are your untouchables? And they said, yeah, we don't have any. So well played by Ro and Kyle there. Very well done.
Yeah, they schooled them there. Then that's not good.
No. Yeah, and I guess they allegedly have a ceasefire going into this week where they will not come for each other. So we'll see how that holds up. There's a lot of questions that I don't think are going to hold up from deals made towards the end of this week. Who are we hoping has a good week? Who are you guys rooting for as the season goes on? Do you have winner picks?
Well, at the beginning of the season, obviously like all we could go off of at the beginning of the season was the bio videos and interviews and stuff like that. So the one that I was most impressed with and really liked from that was I liked Tara and I liked Ty. I'm not very high on Ty at the moment just because he's got that bromance thing going on with Jed. And so it's very easily like, Ty needs Jed to go before him. If Jed goes before Ty, then people might stop thinking about Ty and he might be able to fade into, although, like he's a big buff guy, he's never going to be able to fully fade into the background, but his threat level will minimize if Jed goes before him. That's obviously going to be a blow to him, but you don't know. Like it's one of those situations where either one of those could go. I like Tara's been being really quiet under the radar. I don't know that she has enough relationships or numbers right now her way. I don't think people are like looking at her right now. I like Brayden. I think Braden is in really good with everybody. I think he has potential to be a strong player. I want to see something out of Tara in the next couple of weeks, but if I was to pick a winner pick right now, I would say Braden.
Yeah, preseason, like when it started, I actually, Tara was one of my favorites as well, and along with Rohan and Ty, and then two other people. I liked about 4 or 5 people based on the preseason cast bios. But now, like Tara has been too quiet. It's still too early on. She can make. There's a long game, right? She can make a lot of big moves down the line or near the end and win some comps and do damage there, and that could be a case for her to win. And Rohan, like I thought he was doing really well, and then this whole blow up situation has kind of put him in the spotlight, which I fear he's gonna always be someone that people think about putting up. So I don't know if he will make it to the end. He's the guy that will get to jury, but I don't think he can. I don't know if he'll be able to win it. If he does, like he has a case because he's been kind of in the spotlight for so long. But right now, I'm really liking uh, Ty and Austin, like from two sides, because I think Ty would probably have a better chance at staying over Jed if the two of them are put up. Because Beth also I think is more loyal to Ty. So from their own alliance, Beth I think is more loyal to Ty. And then I think people see Ty as more of the nice guy. Like I think they see, because especially Jed is very volatile. He threw up that house meeting. I feel like people will want to take him out before Ty. So I think Ty is sitting in a good spot for the long run, and also Austin because I think she's capable of winning comps. We see that, and then she's also sitting in the middle, so she could have this similar type of game to Paris from season 6. I potentially she could win.
Yeah, those are all good calls. Ty was my pregame winner pick based on the bio videos. I'm liking where he's at right now. I think Ty and also Kyle are in that spot where their right hand man is going to be taking all the bullets, and they might still be left standing at the end. They're in a pretty good spot. Which I'd love to see a little bit more of Kyle on the show. People seem to like him quite a bit. I was calling him the generic white Canadian guy when the season started. I couldn't tell you anything about him. You forget he existed almost the second he's off the screen. But he seems really well liked, and I think he's playing pretty well.
Yeah, he's very charismatic. I think I think he might do well as long as he doesn't have those slip ups like that in the kitchen where people overhear him.
Yeah, not good.
I gotta wonder what his headspace might have been like, because he's the one who took over for Ethan, right? Going into the season. So, I can only imagine somebody who was probably like an alternate until like the 11th hour, and then all of a sudden, like they call you, like I can imagine at one point you're working out your strategy and you're like thinking about like, okay, how you're gonna play this out and everything like that, and getting yourself mentally prepared for that, and then I'm guessing he probably was told that, okay, you're out, it's not going to happen this year. And then all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, okay, well, focus on other stuff right now. And then all of a sudden you're in, come tomorrow or come in a day or two. Like just that alone, for him to be able to be relatively stable and stay this long with knowing where his headspace could have been at that point, you got to like give him credit for that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many times I'm more well-versed in Survivor alternates doing well, but I mean, many times we've seen the person who's brought in at the very last minute go on to win the show. So maybe there's something about when you peak, right? The people who know they're in start playing a couple days early, and their peak moment's a little bit off. But awesome. Well, Joel, Hira, thank you guys so much. This has been a blast. This has been an awesome season of Big Brother Canada. Thank you both so much. Thanks for coming on and talking. Where can fans find you guys? Joel, where are you at?
So you can find me on Instagram at JoelBBCAN4, on Twitter at JoelBBCAN, and then it's just Joel Lefevre, Lefevre, on my Facebook.
Great. And Hira?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter mainly, Hira Deol 10, and that's where you can find me. And then thank you, Zack, for inviting myself here, and I'd love to come back and chat with you guys again.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. This was great. And thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, we'll be back next Wednesday. I'll be with Brent Walgamot talking about the Veto and Kiefer's start to his HOH week. Thank you, everybody. Good night.